All right, and then once we're all set up with our block and our mat on the floor, um, just lay down on your back. We're going to keep the block between our thighs, straighten out the legs, and bring your arms to your side. And so starting at the feet, here's what mountain pose or Tadasana entails. You want to imagine that your feet are still flat on the floor. So the soles of the feet are completely flush to one another. You also want to just take a glance at your feet and look at the space between your second and third toes. Follow that line, that space between the second and third toes up the foot. And that is basically the midline of both feet. So with the soles of the feet flat, you want the midlines of both of your feet perfectly parallel. In order to do that, you have to internally rotate your feet. So now we have energy in the lower legs. The next step to Tadasana or mountain pose is drawing the kneecaps onto the legs. Another way of saying that is hugging the muscles of the legs to the bones of the legs. We're isometrically straightening and strengthening the legs like two tree trunks. So now we want to connect to Mula and Uddiyana Bandha. This is our inner unit or our core connection, right? So first thing we want to do is use our inner thighs to gently hug the block. Not only hug the block, but hug it as if you're trying to draw the block up toward your pelvis. We're doing this because there's a neurological connection between the adductors and the pelvic floor. So by engaging the inner thighs, we can more easily lift the pelvic floor muscles. So there we go. That's our pelvic floor lifting. We also want to imagine that we are wrapping our transverse abdominis, our abdominal muscles, around our waist gently. So here we have this lower body and core connection for a really connected mountain pose. Draw the ribs in gently toward the spine. And now with your hands at your side on the floor, palms up, I would like you to spread and straighten your fingers as long as you can, as wide apart as you can, and then reach your arms as straight and strong as you're reaching your legs. When you do that, your shoulders will draw down your back away from your ears. We'll gently tuck our chin and we'll lengthen our necks. So this is a global elongation and connection in the body, mountain pose. Just take, I'd say something like 5 deep and steady breaths. The inhale is not just through the belly, but we're filling the side ribs and the back body too. On the exhale, we're reconnecting to the pelvic floor and the deep abdominals. Most folks will feel that about an inch or so below the navel. With each successive breath, maybe you can work on connecting and elongating in this active supine mountain pose a little bit more. Maybe one more breath. And beautiful. Take a moment, you can release the block and shake it off. So this mountain pose, this kind of scaffolding, there's a little bit of this in many of our classical positions in yoga, right? Many of our positions that we encounter in life. And it'll also help us in these kind of on the floor positions. So I'm going to take you through two positions first. The first position is going to be a low boat. So all we're going to do here is take a block and place it between our thighs to begin with. You could bend your knees and flatten your feet. Maybe before you go into it right out, all I'm going to show you is we're going to find our mountain pose on the ground, just as we did before. And low boat, which is an elevation and the elongation of the legs and the head, I like to say it's a bit of a hyper mountain pose, right? You are elongating so much, it's almost like your legs are lifting. They're just floating away from your pelvis. So don't think of it as like a lift up, but think of it as a lift out. And the same thing goes with the spine through the crown of the head. So we're keeping the upper spine long as we do this, and we're reaching the arms. Now, the more that we can mountain pose the legs and the arms, the more connected we're going to feel in that kind of beginning core exercise. So from mountain pose, here we are. We got our feet at 5% internal rotation. The soles of the feet are even, the legs are energized, the core muscles are connecting, the shoulders are drawing down the back, the arms are energized, and the spine is long. Now, after a breath or two, on your inhale, work on elongating so much that maybe the legs float off the floor. Squeezing the block will also help you in this action. If you find that your spine is arching a little bit in this position, lift your legs a little bit higher, but we're keeping that same simple mountain pose physical intention throughout this position. 2 more breaths, and then I'll have you take a mini break. And release it. Maybe windshield wiper the feet. We're going to do it one more time. So again, I like to prepare this. I like to start it off from mountain pose. So when you're ready, right, we got energy in the feet, midlines of the feet and the legs are parallel. Pelvic floor connection, shoulders down the back, the arms are elongated, the neck is elongated on the floor still. 1, 2 breaths in mountain pose. I'm going to join you. And then you're imagining like a plane lifting off. The feet are kind of lifting off the ground. So is the head and the tops of the shoulders. The heels in the crown of the head are reaching away from each other so much that they float off the floor. Keep squeezing the block. Keep breathing deep. And again, I've said this before in other classes. I'm not averse to saying, while you're doing all those other things, then you can imagine imprinting your low back and your mid back into the floor. And release it. Take a moment. Now, if you're feeling ambitious and you want to do a standard boat pose, also know that this is just as much mountain pose in the legs, in the spine, and in the arms. So that elongation in strength and length in the legs and arms is not an arbitrary cue. It actually really helps you connect to your core and your breath in this through that irradiation thing I talk about quite a bit in my prior classes. One more time. Cue your mountain pose on the floor. After 1 or 2 breaths, inhale to elongate up. Any version of mountain pose you wish to do, even with bent knees, you still want the rest of the body, the arms, the spine, organized in this mountain pose alignment. Even squeezing the block and internally rotating the legs really helps support you in whatever variation of Navasana you're in or boat pose you're in. One or two more breaths. Keep the neck long, draw the chin in gently, and release it. Take the block out, windshield wiper the knees. And I say, good morning. All right, can you give me a thumbs up if that made some sense to you? Or if anyone has any questions, we can take a quick break for that. Awesome, 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 good. So it takes a little bit of imagination, but even if I'm here, I'm still in mountain pose, right? Or here. So the orientation of my limbs can be different. The relationship of my spine and my limbs to the ground can be different. But it's about the intention of what you're doing to support that position. So we're going to go on our backs one more time. And I want to do a little bit of bridge work here. Let's see. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so we're going to have the block between our thighs. Perfect. We're going to do a really connected bridge. So what's our ideal here? Our ideal is to get our ankles pretty close to under our knees. Another way of saying that is getting the heels as close to the sitting bones as possible. So what I'm saying with the bridge is there's a good amount, I'd say 75% mountain pose and bridge. So for the bridge we're doing today, you have a perfect mountain pose in your upper body. Okay, nothing changes there. Even the fingers are spread wide. You have the block between your thighs. So let's first start by connecting to that block, engaging the inner thighs, inhaling, and when you inhale, spread the ribs, breathe through the back body, and then when you exhale, lift the pelvic floor and connect to the intrinsic core, the transverse abdominis, that girdle of abdominal tissue. Just do that a couple of times. So maintaining mountain pose in the upper body and that 25% mountain pose in the legs. You're going to press your feet into the floor to lift your pelvis off the floor. Good. And so what are we looking for in our bridge position? We're looking for connection to the quads, of course, the inner thighs, the hamstrings, the glutes, and it'll kind of put a magnifying glass on the core connection we already have. Draw the shoulders down the back, mountain pose the arms still. We're drawing the ribs in. And if you're not feeling that gluteal connection, that's a pretty common cue to try to lift your hips, your pelvis a little bit higher. Can you reach your tailbone away from the crown of your head? Are you still connecting to the block? Are you still inhaling and expanding the ribs? Exhaling to connect to the pelvic floor and the deep abdominals? Can you draw your ribs in gently toward your spine so that the ribs aren't flaring? And again, the crown of the head reaches away from the tailbone, arms stay in mountain pose, fingers are spread. Inhale one more time. We're going to take a mini break, but before you go down, can you think about rolling one vertebra at a time on the floor from the top down to the tailbone? That requires some flexion, some rounding of the spine, and some connection to the deep core muscles. You might also lengthen your spine on the floor. It feels really nice. All right, so we're going to get one more point of feedback, okay? One more point of connection here. So again, friendly and loving reminder to still have perfect mountain pose in the arms now. So the arms are straight, triceps are connected, wrists are straight, fingers are spread. Shoulders are gracefully drawing down the back away from the ears. Chin is tucked and neck is long. Good. Now, connecting to the block, connecting to our Mula and Uddiyana Bandha. We're going to press our feet into the floor to lift the pelvis off the floor here. Can you keep that connection to the block between your legs on the way up in your bridge? So we're lifting slowly in a bridge until you're at your highest perceived point in your bridge position. Now, I'm just going to repeat something a few times, but from this position, without moving your feet, again, without moving your feet from where they currently are, they're not changing their location, I want you to energetically draw your heels toward your pelvis. You'll know you're doing it right when you feel your hamstrings connect and when you feel a deeper connection to your glutes. And if it feels really intense, see if first you can deepen your core connection to balance it out in your body. And if that doesn't work, lighten that pull of the heels toward the pelvis. But now we have this fully co-contracted connection in our bridge. Maintaining mountain pose in the upper body also helps support this position. I'm going to give space for 3 or 4 more deep and slow breaths, or rest if you need it. It's Sunday morning. One more deep inhale, and then on your exhale, we'll consider rolling the spine down one vertebra at a time as well, while positing a sense of length throughout that action. Yeah. Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, good. So let's take the block away for a moment and just windshield wiper the knees once again. Maybe going somewhere towards shoulder width with the feet. It's a strange sentence. Yeah, the wider you go with your feet in the windshield wiper, just a little bit more torsion you get, twisting you get in this. And then just real quick before we take it to standing, what I want to do while we're on the ground is let your left knee, that's your left knee, fall in, and then your right foot is going to come to the outside of the left knee. Try not to slam into that cue, right? Nice and easy into it. We're getting a nice little twisting in the low back. Keep the spine long for this action. Maybe just the gravity of your foot on the outside of your knee, if you can completely relax into it, will be enough. If you're looking for a little bit more, you can then actively press your foot on the outside of the knee. If you're looking for a little bit more, while you're pressing your foot into your knee, that's the left knee for me, while I'm pushing my right foot into my left knee, I'm imagining spiraling my left hip back toward the floor. That'll give you a little bit deeper of that twisting in the low back. And then let's get real fancy. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can reach your left knee away from your body, and that'll open your hip flexors, and your sacrum just a little bit more. Breathe into that. When you make space, it's a really good idea to breathe into that newfound space. And then take a moment out of that windshield wiper the knees. Just assess maybe if that side feels a bit more mobile. Now the right knee is coming in. The left foot is coming to the outside of the right knee. Again, maybe just the gravity of foot on knee is enough for this side for you. And then I'll scale it up for you, right? You can actively press your foot into the outside of your knee. Additionally, you can spiral your right hip back if your right knee is the inside knee. And then finally, we can elongate through the kneecap to open that side body at the hip and the sacrum. Breathing expands the inside body. It's almost like staking your claim to that newfound space. Hey, this is space that I operate in movement. Make it available to me. And then release up, windshield wiper the knees. Groovy. Okay. Roll to your favorite side and press yourself up. Okay, so we're going to get into our standing at the wall yoga. So the bold claim that I made, my thesis at the beginning of this class, is that there's mountain pose in all of our poses, right? And so before we actually maybe come to standing, it looks like the majority of us are still on the floor, so that's good. What I want you to do is just take a quick moment, if you can, to do your own native plank. And before you go into your own native plank, it doesn't matter to me if it's a forearm plank or a hand plank, okay? I just want you to see how that plank feels in your body on the floor. Notice where there's tension gathering up. Notice, is it in my shoulders? Is it in my core a lot? Is it in my legs? Those are things just to kind of notice and observe about your plank, the way that you're used to doing it. And then we're going to deconstruct. So yeah, we'll just take about 5 breaths for that at your own time and pace, kind of a casual plank. Okay. And take a second to release it. I see a couple smart child's poses in the house. That's always a nice idea. And then we'll come to standing with 1 block to begin with. If you have 2 blocks, just make sure the second one is kind of on hand. And then we're going to take it to the wall. Yeah. So my bold claim, yes, was that there's mountain pose in all of our poses. And the first kind of a real pose that I want to highlight formally for our wall practice is our plank pose. And so what I insisted, and I'm demonstrating here, is that you find it in all poses. If you look at a plank from a standing position, my arms are still in mountain pose, even though they're oriented forward in front of me. My arms are still in a mountain pose position. They're actively straight. The hands are extended at the wrists, but the fingers are still spread wide. So there's all of these pieces in the body are the same pieces that we carry in mountain pose. And I always find that using the wall first before we take it to the floor is just an excellent way to get in touch with all those connections without the influence of gravity, once again. So find your favorite spot on the wall. And we're totally eliminating gravity. So a lot of people, when I first teach them this, they want to lean their body weight into the wall. But we're not doing that here. All we're doing is bringing our hands at about shoulder height on the wall in front of you. And your body is completely stacked vertically. Again, you're not leaning into the wall at all. You should be able to take your hands off the wall without you doing any fighting. You're just standing. Now, with your hands on the wall, shoulder height, the wrists are shoulder height. We'll just keep the hands there for now. Take a look at your feet. Take a look at that split, that bifurcation between the second and third toes. Follow that split up the foot in your mind and get those two imaginary lines perfectly parallel. I have the block between my thighs. Maybe I told you to bring your block with you. If you don't have it between your thighs, bring it there now. Good. Now we're mountain posing our legs. So that means we are hugging the musculature of the legs on the bones of the legs. We have a connection to the glutes. I'd say a 10% one. We have that same pelvic floor, inner thigh, and deep abdominal connection. The shoulders are still drawing down the back, just like mountain pose. The arms have elongation energy in them, just like when we were on the floor. The fingers are spread wide, just like when we were on the floor. And the chin is tucked and the neck is long, just like when we were on the floor. And so this is a completely unloaded plank position. I'm coming off the wall. I'm going to give you a little side view. So again, I'm not leaning forward, I'm just upright. And if you're really making all those connections that I cued, this should feel like low to low medium grade work. On the inhale, can you expand your ribs wider than you have on the last breath? On the exhale, can you connect to the core and your elongation in your body more than you did on the last breath? Rinse, wash, repeat that. So this is one of those deals where to the naked eye, it doesn't look like you're moving. But if somebody could see the inner space of the body, you are shifting the inner spaces of your body. You are connecting ever more to that supporting muscle in mountain pose. And so let's take, I'm going to be strict here, 5 more deep breaths in the apex of your plank on the wall. And after you shake it off, after these 5 breaths, we're going to take this to the floor. And what I want you to do is the same exact thing that you're doing here with the inner space in your body. And while you're doing that, you'll compare it to your native plank. And then we'll just survey. Release, shake it off. Now, I saw a couple forearm planks in the house and I applaud them. I don't want you to change your forearm plank if you got a wrist going on or something like that, right? But if you're doing forearm, for this practice, let's work on perfect parallel in the forearms here, right? And what is in mountain pose still is your hands spread wide to support your wrist with the muscles of your forearm and your shoulders. A lot of people who do forearm plank do this, right? I want to see this connect to the back and the chest muscles. Okay, ready to boogie, gang? Give me a thumbs up if you are.
Are we doing it standing up or down on the floor?
This is rubber meets road now, so we're doing it on the floor.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
But no problem. I want you to bring your block with you on this one. So this is going to be our best friend for today's practice, okay? Mm-hmm. All right, good. So So I like to stage our plank from an all fours position, hands and knees. It's a little weird with the block, but it's possible. Let's take a look at our hands on the floor in front of us. Spread your fingers wide. The floor can help you with that. Good. Now grab the floor with the tips of your fingers. Grab the floor with the middle knuckles and grab the floor with the palm, and you'll feel your forearms connect. Get your arms straight, straight, straight like mountain pose, shoulders down the back. Connect to the inner thighs and the deep core muscles. And then we're going to straighten the legs out into our mountain pose position. Even 5% internal rotation in the feet. Chin is tucked, neck is long. So there's isometric energy throughout this entire plank. Kneecaps on the legs, elbows on the arms, shoulders down the back. Inhale, you're still breathing through your ribs and the back of your body. Exhale, you're still working to make your body longer, reaching your heels away from the crown of your head, making your arms and legs straighter, feeling that connection in your glutes. I'm going to cue like 4 more breaths here. Inhale to expand the ribs. Exhale to connect to the core and elongate the body. And rest and shake it off. Take a child's pose if you need it. This is one of those instances where you realize the varying definitions of the term easy, right? So is it easier to do this plank than the plank you're used to doing? The answer is probably no. I've even said it in this Zoom class before. But is it easier on your body? Do your joints feel more supported in this? Can anyone give me a thumbs up if they notice that? Yeah? Yeah, Helene? What are you feeling, Milan? What are you feeling?
I feel like it's harder on my arm muscle just because my arm muscles, I haven't been doing any upper body. So my upper body is really weak. And so I felt like I had to do too much effort with my arms.
Yeah, and so, you know,
my biceps are weak.
The easiest answer for that, first of all, what you're feeling is totally normal, right? So that's not like, it's not one of these things, but that is the point. You know, with the kind of idea with this type of practice is we're using our musculature and our fascia, have you heard of that word before? To support our skeletal system in these poses, instead of putting these poses into our skeleton in our joints. So is it going to be harder and kind of more, for lack of better words, effort, especially if you haven't been working them in that way? Yeah. But long term, it's more beneficial to the longevity of our practice to take that connected approach as opposed to the I'm going to put it in my joints approach. Does that make sense, everyone? And so we're going to try to apply that tact to all of our poses today in our practice. We're going to take a side plank. Now, if you're used to doing side plank, there's so many modifications. I think the 3 that we can kind of play with. You can do bent knee, elbow, side plank, right? You can also do that modified side plank on your hand with your top knee bent, right? Or you can go with the whole shebang. Yeah? I would go with second variant myself.
Adam?
Yes.
What about split legs on the floor instead of stacked legs?
Yeah, so that way you have a little bit more stability. So that would look like this. And that's actually, if you ask me, a superior modification. I would take that, Helene. Thank you. So why this position? Play with this in small doses if you don't do this a lot. I want you to find that same mountain pose connection. So if you have a straight arm, really straighten it like mountain pose. If you have a straight leg, you're really straightening it like mountain pose, internally rotating the feet, drawing the shoulders down the back, connecting to the core. There's so many components of mountain pose inside plank. The one avoidable if you're doing a hand side plank is the wrist. You can try to grab the ground with your fingertips, but that's hard to avoid pain. All right, other side. You ready to do other side if you haven't yet? So no two sides are alike. So I'm cueing kind of from a straight leg because I'm cueing for mountain pose. So before you go into it, sit on your hip, straighten your legs like they would be in mountain pose. I'm taking Helene's straight leg, split leg modification. I can connect to my pelvic floor muscles. I can connect to my abdominals, just like mountain pose. I can draw the ribs down my back, and I can straighten my bottom arm. I come up into my side plank, and I can straighten my top arm, just like mountain pose. Two deep, steady breaths here at a time. That's what I would recommend. Allison, is it lifting your shoulder that hurts?
Adam, I just want to say the reason why I do your class is because when I don't, I do that exact thing you were talking about. I do the Yahoo thing in my joints. And I did that yesterday in my shoulder in like a HIIT class.
Yeah, and so when you're moving, right, what ends up happening here, this is just like mountain pose. Drawing your shoulders down your back is connecting to your pelvic, to your, your shoulder girdle, your chest and your back muscles. So you're not putting whatever the action is just here into the delts, right? So it's co-contracting with other muscles to support the joints like a cast, you know, like a movable, flexible cast. And that's what mobility is. So, okay, we've done both sides, correct? Awesome. So that's plank variant. No matter what your relationship with gravity is, whether you're upright on the wall, whether you're facing the ground, right? Or whether you're on your side, what's happening on the inner space of your body, it's the same thing, right? Yoga and movement is confusing, but if you have a blueprint to get you there, everything gets demystified pretty easily. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to demonstrate first so you can see it before you have to do it. You're going to do your plank, right? Because plank at wall is mountain pose, and there's mountain pose in all of our poses. So this is a good simple application. Once we feel like we're really connected here, then you're going to walk your feet back. You're going to reach your tailbone back, and you're going to hinge at your hips. Your hands might slide down the wall a couple inches. Your ears are aligned with your upper arm bones. I'll give you that cue later. But what you'll notice is you're at a down dog on the wall. All right, so let's go to the wall and plank. I'm going to cue from there. From your plank on the wall with the block between your thighs, we're going to get our feet at that perfect parallel. Find that real isometric grip on the legs. So yeah, straightening the legs deep into the ground, connect to the block, connect to those core muscles. Maybe draw the ribs gently away from the wall. Yep, we're moving the shoulders away from the ears and we're making the neck long and we're drawing the chin in. Take a look at your elbows, see if they're bent. If they have a little bit of a bend in them, maybe it's the wrists. So turn the hands out just a tiny bit and see if you can straighten your arms out even more. Beautiful. Helene, that worked for you, it looks like. Good, beautiful. So now we have a mountain pose in the body with a wall plank. So you're just gonna keep all of those connections that we spent time making while you shuffle your feet back and you start to go into a hinge. Yeah, and so maybe not a 90-degree in the body, right? Maybe a little higher, yeah. And your head is between your arms. So your upper arm bones are aligned perfectly with your ears. Another way of saying that is your eyes are looking just a couple feet in front of the tips of your toes. Now, that's just the position. Here we go again. Are your feet still in that perfect parallel? Are your legs still in mountain pose? Are you still connecting to the core and lifting the ribs gently toward the spine? Are you reaching the tailbone and the crown of the head away from each other in opposition to create length in the spine? And how straight can you make your arms here and how wide can you spread your fingers? Breathe into this to claim the space that you're making in your body. So this is a great opportunity to remind you that all downward dog on the floor is a hinge. You're doing a hinge with your arms overhead. That's it, all right? So when you're on the floor, you're in a different position. Now, I'm also here to remind you that a hinge is mountain pose, just bent at the hips. So without changing anything in your body and keeping the left arm straight the whole time, can you take your left arm off the wall and bring it to your side? Nothing else changes in the body. Yeah. Palm faces the ground. And imagine it's like this, if you can just glance. My arm, if you had an X-ray, is aligned with my spine. So I just went like this. Nothing changed in my body. Boom. Boom. Let's play with that a little bit. The left arm. Notice, does your shoulder peel down? Helene, when you bring your arm to your side, draw that shoulder back the whole time. A little bit slower. Yeah. Palm faces the ground the whole time. Is your head moving? Beautiful. Now we're cooking with gas. Yeah. Helene, palm down toward the ground the whole time when it comes down to your side like this. You're doing this. I want you to do this. Because that actually changes what happens in your shoulder. You were doing this. I want you to do this. Do you see what happens in my shoulder? Yeah. Okay, I'm still cueing for the left side for 1 or 2 more times, but if you want to jump onto the right arm doing that. Try to bring your right arm and notice if you can keep everything the same in the spine and in the legs. Mountain pose legs, mountain pose arms and spine and breath. Chin is tucked, neck is long. So down dog, is a hinge. And bring both hands back on the wall. So that we're in our down dog. And then walk the feet forward and come back up into your plank on the wall. And then take your arms off the wall from mountain pose facing the wall. And shake it all off. So all we're doing with that down dog, taking our arms off the wall, is we're taking that last bit of support, the arms away, and we're relying on that musculature again to support the position. That's all I was doing there with that. Cool. We're going to do one more downward dog variation, and this is where we really start the boogie. And we're going to do three-legged dog on the wall. Okay? And so I'm going to do a strict three-legged dog, or warrior three in three-legged dog. So what that means here is I'm going into down dog on the wall. You already did that. And then I'm going to lift one leg off the floor, right? But notice I haven't lifted my hips at all. I'm just demonstrating for you guys now. And nothing's changed in my body. So down dog on the wall, leg lifts, three-legged dog. So let's start in plank on the wall. We're going to do it together as a family. No block this time. Feet are hip width apart. Feet are parallel. Legs are strong. Core is connected. Shoulders down the back. Arms are strong, straight. Spine is straight. We're going to shuffle back, find our downward facing dog. And the foot that will be active will be our left leg. That'll be our extending leg. But hold down dog for one moment. Just make sure you're really connected to your longest down dog, your most connected down dog. And then again, you don't want to change the conditions in your body. All you want to do is float, elongate the left leg back on your next inhale. Yeah, whenever you're ready. Yeah. And you lift it as high as you can while maintaining alignment. And it's up to you to see. Are my left hip and right hip even? Yes. Does that limit how high I could take that foot? Yes, but for this case, it's okay. Am I making my legs as straight as possible? Am I still connecting to my deep core? Am I internally rotating my floating leg, turning it in? Are my arms strong and straight here? So the more you can mountain pose all of your body here, the more stable and strong you'll be in this position. One more breath. Milan, you could turn your toes in a little bit more and lower your leg, and that'll get your hips even. Yeah. Woo. And then exhale down and try to have a perfect down dog when you come out of it. If you have to make some micro adjustments, you know that you fell out of that perfect mountain pose alignment. Right leg now. Let's inhale the right leg up without changing how straight it is, without changing the alignment of our left and right hip. There's no twist in the body. Mountain pose arms, mountain pose legs. Milan, you're not going to like me. Drop the right hip a little bit, even if you have to lower the right leg a tiny bit, and think instead of how straight can I make my legs. And once you feel your glute connect in your right leg, you know you've hit the promised land there. One or two more breaths here. Now, when you lower that right leg down and bring it on the floor, see how close to that perfect down dog you are without making any micro adjustments in the body. Then shuffle the feet up so that you're in a perfect plank. See if you can just bring yourself, just by standing up, into a great plank on the wall. And then, beautiful, bring your arms to your sides off the wall and just find that perfect mountain pose. Boom. Take a second in mountain pose, fully straight arms and legs, to see if that feels similar to even when you're in the more complex positions. And then shake it off. It's like 25 years of teaching, and it's like even martial arts, like you start to see these parallel concepts, you know, that really serve you. And to me, mountain pose is such an elegant solution for how to hold yourself. So, okay, so we've explored some supine positions. We've done some plank positions, down dog on the wall. I want to take this quickly on the floor now. So what you did on the wall here, down dog and three-legged dog, we're going to do onto the floor. And I want you to try to have the same exact intention in your body as when you weren't dealing with a little bit more gravity, okay? Like we will be here. So let's go all fours position. Hands and knees. Does somebody have a question? I think I got a sound on. I'm hearing. Once you're in all fours position, gang, take a look at the hands, get the index fingers parallel to one another. Good. Find your elbow pits. That's the sensitive side of your elbow joint. And let's get the elbow pits forward and draw the shoulders down the back. Good. Now, we're going to straighten our left leg. We're going to straighten our right leg, and now we're in a plank position. This is still mountain pose, hands forward. Feel the glutes connect. You're going to shift back and lift the tailbone high to downward facing dog pose. Now, from downward facing dog, it's the same thing as on the wall. So what are we looking for? We're looking for straight legs. Maybe the midlines of the feet are parallel to one another still. The spine is long. The ears are aligned with the upper arm bones, and the arms are straight. The shoulders are drawing down the back away from the ears, and the core is connecting. Good. Feet are about hip width apart, or maybe a little wider if you like that space, but somewhere around there. So arms are in mountain pose, legs are in mountain pose, spine's in mountain pose, core is in mountain pose, even though the shape of your body is different. Now, notice where your left hip and your right hip is. And now, without changing how straight your left leg is at the knee, without changing the position of your hips, I want you to lift your left leg off the floor. Can you keep your arms straight while you do that? So yeah, so now we're in three-legged dog in the shape of warrior three, because the hip isn't lifting. The hips are totally even here. Why is he saying it's in the shape of warrior three? You'll see. Breathe deeply in this. Arms are in mountain pose. Legs are split, but they are in mountain pose. Even the feet, the midlines of the feet are parallel. Spine is straight, core is connected. Breath is deep through the ribs. If you were just standing in mountain pose, you'd be doing the same thing with your inner body. It's harder because you're facing the ground. Now, foot down, lower the knees, take a child's pose. While you're in child's pose, see how much you can spread the back ribs apart from each other. circle the wrists. So Allison, tricky right shoulder today, right? So you can continue to work it on the wall and you're gonna get the same benefit. Some might even say more with less load. You know, you tried it out right now and you got a sense of what it felt like. So if it feels like you're in a danger zone, don't go there. It's not worth it. But the more you can connect here, the more that you're getting all that support, as I said before. Don't rely on the deltoids. They're not that strong. Cool. All right, so we have one more leg to lift. So find your plank position. It's just the simplest shape we can make with our bodies. Yeah. So from your plank position, arms straight, go into plank, straighten your favorite leg first. And notice that plank, if done in mountain pose intention, is a lot in the legs and core. The arms are just pillars. Yep, so when you're ready, we're in plank. Boom, yeah. So the straighter your legs are, feel the glutes connect, working with the core and the breath, and then the arms are just kind of supporting you. And then from there, lift the tailbone toward the ceiling, bring your head between your arms for downward dog. And look at that. Milan, that was perfect. Your legs and arms didn't change shape. Did you feel that difference? That was awesome. Just because I got to see you transition there, that was great. Now, perfect. Allison, woo! Look at you guys. I'm sorry, I got really excited there. Right leg's gonna lift now, if you are following my cueing. So from here, we're in that down dog. And nothing else changes in the body, just the orientation of the right leg. Now, is it hard to internally rotate that right leg? Yes. But we do it so that we can stretch the left leg. Maybe instead of going in our highest lifted right leg, lower the right leg a little bit and see if you could straighten it a bit more. Feel your quads and glutes connect, and that will support your spine. One more breath I'm cueing for, and then see if you can float down that right leg to the floor without changing the conditions in the rest of your body. Awesome. Hold that down dog real quick. Roll the spine forward into a plank position. The arms and legs stay the same. Your neck is straight and your chin is tucked, knees come down, and then you sit back into child's pose. So we're due for a back bend, I think. Terry, how the wrists doing? Are they just kind of a little achy today, or are they really bothering you? Hey, you know, a game changer for all people who are on their hands in the way that we are is a squeeze ball, but there are squeeze balls with a kind of rubber band that you could stick each finger in. And so it's not just flexing the finger, but it's using your extensors with resistance. So you squeeze.
What's the product?
Grip Master. Wow, I can't believe I was able to find that. But I think it's like Grip Master. It's something like that. You can also flexion extension ball, but it'll give you both of those things. It's the extension aspect for us yogis that we really need. Yeah. Okay, great. So I said that the three-legged dog that we're doing was three-legged dog in the shape of Warrior 3. And so all I want to do is just demo to you how universal these shapes are, okay? So this is more of a demo deal. We'll include Warrior 3. Well, we already did. So Warrior 3 is a balance pose where your hips are even, one leg is straight behind you, your spine is straight, you're hinged forward, and your arms are up next to your ears overhead. Okay? Three-legged dog is the same dang thing, you're turned 90 degrees. Were you able to see that, everybody? Yeah. So in order to support that position, you're doing the same thing with your body. You're mountain posing your arms and your legs. So it doesn't matter which way you're turned, you're still using it the same way. Ready to back bend? Yeah, we're gonna baby cobra on the wall. And so block will go between our thighs for this one. And we're gonna get really up close and personal with the wall. You're gonna get the tips of your big toes and your second toe right up on your floorboard. So they're not climbing up the wall, they're just kissing the wall. The block is between your thighs for this. Now the front hips are going up against the wall as well. And the front of the ribs are also going on the wall. Your hands, your palms, are going on the wall at the level of your low ribs. Another way of saying that is your arms are in a 90 degree. Yeah, like this, Allison. So your hands are on the wall at the level of your low ribs. So let's just do that checklist. Toes kissing the wall, check. Good. Hips right up against the wall, check. Front of the ribs right up against the wall, check. And palms right next to the front of the ribs on the wall, check. Now, we're gonna do baby cobra at the wall. I'm gonna cue one thing at a time. Squeeze that block with your inner thighs. Find that deep core connection. This is the key. We're moving from here. Good. Now, we're keeping the toes and the hips and the ribs on the wall the whole time. I want you to imagine that you have magnets, very powerful magnets in the bones of your elbows. Those magnets are attracted to one another, and they're attracted to the floor right behind your heels. Now, we haven't peeled our head or shoulders back or anything yet. But don't you feel like you're already doing a back bend in some ways? You're using the muscles that you need to be using to do a back bend. Those muscles are the legs. Oh, I forgot to cue. Draw your kneecaps strongly onto your legs too. Sorry. So we're using the legs deeply. We're using the inner thighs and core. We're using the back muscles before we even bring our spine into a back bend. Now,
are we tucking the butt?
Yes, but that tailbone to belly action, Milen, right? That's happening naturally when you connect to the core. But yes, absolutely. You're finding that kind of connection in the glutes and in the core muscles. Yeah. But try not to lose the length in your legs here, because the legs are also helping out with that. And now what we'll try to do is, keeping the chin tucked and the neck long, I would like you to peel your head and shoulders away from the wall, maybe just 3 or 4 inches, without losing perfect length along the neck, without losing mountain pose in the legs, and without losing that mountain pose connection in the core and the back. So this is a wall baby cobra. Work to sustain for maybe 3 breaths here. And then you can take a break. Don't break from the wall, just return your head and shoulders back for a moment. Take a breath. And then you inhale, go back into that baby cobra. Toes are on the wall, hip points and fronts of ribs are on the wall. And then you peel the head and shoulders away, right? And now, while you're in baby cobra, I want you to try, which is the operative word, try to lift your heels. You should not be able to. I'm giving you an impossible cue. Yeah, if you're keeping all of these points of connection, you should not be able to lift your heels, but I want you to do it anyway, because I'm using that action in the body as a magnifying glass for you to be able to feel the muscles more that are required to safely do a back bend. Wow, that was a big sentence. Lifting the heels makes you feel the leg muscles, the core muscles, and the back muscles more. Those muscles are what elongates the spine. The spine does not elongate those muscles when we back bend. Exhale, return the head over the shoulders. Press yourself away from the wall and shake it off. So to me, it really does not matter if you're doing a baby cobra on the wall or if you're doing a full dropping back bend from Ashtanga primary series. It's this intention, this mountain pose intention throughout the body that really helps us connect to our back bends. And that's something that I've slowly and repeatedly been impressing, hopefully, in these past 14 or so classes. Did that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have any questions? Yeah?
Not a question, but boy, that was a workout.
Oh, yeah. No, you will sweat. It's like it's kind of limbic, you know? You know what? So I know, so it's 11:03. We started a little bit late. I just want to, do you have time for one more action here? Everyone? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, cool. It's worth just mentioning, we've done this before, but this is a repeatable drill. This is going to be high lunge to warrior position at the wall. Okay. So we're going to need a block for this one here. And we're going to need a strap or a belt if you have that. I'm going to demonstrate it briefly. And I have this wall here, which I think is superior. So just watch, don't do, even if you've done it before. So I'm going to take this block. I'm putting my toes on the wall, just like we did with our baby cobra. I'm going to take that block, and for me, I'm going to put it at its narrowest width on the wall. I'm not fully committing to the lunge yet. I'm just starting to set myself up. I'm going to take my strap, folded or unfolded, and just put it behind me and hold on to it with my palms forward. And then from there, once you're set up and your block is firmly between your knee and the wall, and you're facing the wall, and you have your strap behind you, I'll cue you from there. Okay? From a teaching perspective, I think that's a better way of doing it. Let's all do left foot forward, actually. Left foot is our forward leg. Right leg is our work leg. Okay, so we're going to work long lunge or high lunge or runner's lunge. This to me, just like mountain pose is kind of the archetype, or it's the blueprint for all of our classical poses. High lunge is the blueprint for our warrior poses, our warrior archetypes. If you can do a high lunge perfectly, then your warrior is going to be amazing too. So let's remember that there's a little bit of mountain pose in all of our classical poses. So Allison, hold on to the strap with your palms facing the wall. So both feet, their midlines are still parallel. Even though they're apart from each other, that means that your back leg heel is turned out slightly. Yeah. Now your heel is lifted way high off the ground in your back leg because this is a runner's lunge. When you do that, you'll immediately be able to get your hips even to one another. So you're facing the wall. Your back leg is in mountain pose. And what I mean by that is your knee is so straight that you feel your glute muscle and your back leg engage. You're driving that block into the wall in front of you with your front knee. And now with the strap behind you, you're trying to pull on the strap as if you wished it were a resistance band, while you reach your punching knuckles toward the ground. That'll draw your shoulders away from the crown of your head. Reach the crown of the head away from all of the action you're feeling in the body and breathe deep. Are your wrists bending back? There you go. Awesome, Helene. Good adjustment. Feel the belly of the forearm engage. You have mountain pose back legs, mountain pose arms, mountain pose spine, mountain pose breath, mountain pose core, mountain pose feet. One more deep breath in this position, and then I want you to spiral the back heel down for warrior foot. Just notice when your heel dropped, what happened to your hips? The back leg hip peeled back. Here's the deal with warrior. Even though the heel is down, you want that energy as if you're trying to keep your hips even. So spiral the right leg hip forward, but keep the heel on the ground. Oh, it's tricky. Here, let's take a break for that. Shake it off, because this is a valuable piece of info here. I'm going to demonstrate for everyone. So what we're trying to do, I'm going to use my left leg work leg. So what I'm having everyone do here is notice that my left hip and my right hip are even to the wall in my high lunge. Yeah? So when I go into warrior, what's going to automatically happen is my left hip is going to peel back in order for me to put my heel on the ground. My left hip has come back like this. Here's the trick with a real, I lost my earpiece, real connected warrior position is even though the hip peels back, I want to try to turn it forward here. I want to try to get my hips even. That requires real core connection here. My leg is just as straight as it was in high lunge. My hips are even, my ribs are even. So not this, but this. Hold on a second, I'm coming over to the screen. Does that make sense, everyone?
I kind of like, so when you have your left leg is straight and your right knee is bent against the wall, your heel is above the floor, correct?
The heel, so in your left leg, when you're doing your runner's lunge, the heel is lifted. Yeah.
Okay.
But once you go into warrior, you can't lift the heel has to drop.
Oh. Yeah, it has to drop as you twist from you're twisting from the hip bone. Yeah, you're twisting from the foot, and that'll carry the hip. Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, that'll carry the hip. And you notice your hip dropped back. Even though your hip dropped back, try to see if you can use your muscles in your left glute and your abs to try to get your hips a little more even to each other. Oh, can you tell if they're even or not? I don't think it is. I could. They're not. Your left hip is a little further back. And so can you slide your left hip forward? Like that? Yeah, keep your heel on the ground and do that. Oh, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. It's very tight. Yeah, so make sure you're not feeling pain in the joints. Just straighten your back leg and gently start to draw that back leg hip forward. Yeah, so just go to that limit, Milan, right? Yeah. Right where you're feeling challenged, but not where you're feeling pinching in the joint or anything like that. Feel the muscles. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Because if you're feeling it in the joint, that means that you're starting to put the position into the joint. And that's what we're trying to get out of here. Wait, so can I feel a little burning as a stretch? Oh, yeah. You don't want even that? No, I want that. Yeah, I feel a burning stretch, like it hasn't been used in like 10 years. This is a beautiful thing. So what you'll probably also feel, Milan,
is you're also going to feel that glute working if you're feeling a stretch in the front hip, right? Those kind of go together like rama lama lama kadingity ding dong. Wow, I just brought up Greece. Okay, so we're playing with that, and don't forget, if you have the strap behind you, you're using the strap so that you can connect your arms to your back, just like mountain pose. Now, we've been doing this for a while, so good. And you're playing, you can lift your heel back to high lunge and back down to warrior. And just notice, okay, this is the same thing, I'm just putting my body in a slightly different position. It's the same thing. Right? We're just putting our body in a slightly different position. Shoulders are still even to the wall for warrior one. Shoulders or hips are still even to the wall. I kind of trying to get them even to the wall for warrior one. And then when you're ready, switch legs. Okay, once you feel like, oh, okay, I got that. I feel that high lunge and warrior, it's the same thing I'm doing with the muscles of my body. I've just put my heel on the ground. And my natural default is to peel my hip back. But yoga is the practice of recognizing and pulling away from our natural defaults. So that said, I'm going to try to draw my hip forward even though it wants to come back. So you're in high lunge, and maybe you started to play with spiraling the heel down to the ground without changing the character of the inner space of the body. It's all mountain pose. Milen, you'll feel your shoulders a little better if you unwrap your hands. I know you're using a resistance band, that's okay, but bring your palms this way instead of this way. That'll help you. If you were using the strap, that's fine, but that'll help you connect to your back muscles more.
Yeah, I can't find my strap, it disappeared, so I used
That's all right. So hold that a little more narrowly because it's a band and it's gonna pull, you know? So bring your hands a little closer together behind you. Yeah, palms facing the wall. Yeah.
Okay.
And then pull and feel your back muscles connect. And so, Helene, you've done both sides quite a bit too. Do you kind of grok what I'm talking about there? Good, awesome. So after we're done with this, then we have a couple of options. If you got to go, because we are at 11:14, that's regulation time for our class. If you count our beginning, then you got to go, and it was awesome having you. If you want to sit down at the front of your mat and we'll take a quick Shavasana, we can do that as well, just to let the body settle and do that final scan together as a family. Yeah. So I'm checking in with you, Milen, here. Sorry, let me do this. Did that make sense to you at some point, a little bit more?
Yeah, it's connecting. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
It's soaking, it's slowly sinking in.
It's not the only time you'll hear it from me. Don't worry about it. Sometimes it takes a couple times and then you go, oh my goodness, yeah. Okay, good. And then once we're seated at the front of our mat, we're going to bring our knees together, feet together, feet flat on the mat. Squeeze the legs as if they're glued together. Bring the hands forward, palms facing each other. Mountain pose, arms and shoulders. And you know what we're going to do, friends and family. We're going to roll one vertebra at a time down onto the mat. Trying to use the deep core abdominal muscles and mountain pose in our bodies to end up fully flat on our backs. And again, if there's a part where your body just wants to surrender to gravity, notice where that is, make a note of it, and compare it in next class and see if you make improvement. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You guys are fabulous students. And then when you're ready, maybe you want to come up, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to lay right on your backs and start to straighten the legs. So we used blocks as props today. So I can always recommend that you place those blocks under the backs of your knees if you're on your back. And that'll help just settle your low back a little bit more. And so our body is not in mountain pose anymore. It is in Savasana. And the key with this pose is to fully unload. When we burn ourselves, we move our hands really fast, kind of as a reflex. The reason why we do that is because the motor pathway and the pain pathway, it's the same pathway. And it's kind of like a 1.5 lane road, right? You're only going to get one car through at a time. So as a reflex, we just kind of shake it off. My point with that is, this is why we have Shavasana. We're eliminating movement and load from the body, so that we can start to integrate the information that we've received during the practice, the physical practice. Inhale and imagine the outer limits of your body expanding in all directions. Exhale and visualize your body settling into the floor. Inhale and expand outward. Exhale, leaves fall. Noticing if there's tension in the fingers. Releasing that. Noticing if there's tension along the borders of the collarbones, the top of the chest, and breathing and releasing into that. Noticing if there's tension at the creases of the hips, the hip flexors, and moving breath into that. The tops of the feet, tender skin on the backs of the knees. Breathing in ease to all of these spaces. Allowing all that good work that we did today to assimilate into the nervous system. Relax the eyelids and the tongue. Relax the muscles in the back of the throat. And see if you can relax the musculature around the ears and the base of the skull. Finally, See if you can relax the musculature behind the eyes. And just let the eyes sit with ease in their sockets heavily. Breathe into these spaces 5 more times. And while you're doing that, recognize your own body's resiliency and your own body's strength. You told it to do, and it did today. And then bring some movement into the outer edges of the body, the fingers and the toes, and the face and the tops of the feet. And then bend the knees, flatten the feet. We get that windshield wiper and big yawn and stretch like you just woke up in the morning. Pick your favorite side and roll to it. And again, let yourself settle there and maybe hug yourself, post-yoga embrace, before gently and slowly pressing yourself up to seated.